Welcome back, everyone. Out of your league. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Will.
How are you?
Very well, very well.
Good. That's enough. That'll do.
That's all we
enough
need to
detail
know.
for now.
Let's just get straight to it.
By the way, we came second in the Sports Podcast Awards.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, which is actually quite a surprise because I thought we were going to come last.
Who
Out
won?
of 12.
Who won?
The Rugby Pod with Jim Hamilton and Andy Good.
Oh,
Good
well
lads, to be
good
fair.
lads. Good podcast.
Yeah, not as good as ours, but
listen to it
people
regularly.
did vote for us, which is astonishing.
Yeah, thank you to all those people.
Thank you to those 17 people that voted for us. So second, which is better than last. So
Silver.
congratulations to you, Mark. We're joined this week by a legend of the game, Mark Flanagan.
Yep.
And it's not you, it is the man from down the road, Mr. Adrian Morley. Adrian, how are you?
I'm all right. Thank you.
I need to apologise, mate, because I've come in very late as well here, and you
Yeah.
know you're pretending that
I'll
you like
forgive you.
me.
No, you're all right.
We've only
It's,
just met, and I'm half an hour late. Unacceptable. Never be late. Never
Never
be
be
late, Mark. Because there's no excuse. You should always set off early, but I set off an hour and a half early.
There's always traffic at 5 o'clock around
I
Manchester
know.
City
Should know
Centre,
that,
isn't
really,
it?
shouldn't I?
Should do.
Yeah. Do you know why? Because we used to do it in a coffee shop in town. It was quite easy for me. She used to walk down the road, and Mark didn't want to do it because he had to put the chairs away.
Pot's Kettle Black.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's really good. It gets too busy, so that's why we couldn't do it there anymore.
Yeah. Is that why?
That's why.
Business is booming.
Business is booming.
Business is booming. Adrian Morley, the first British player to win the grand final in Britain, of course, Mark, and the NRL.
Yep.
A trailblazer.
I remember watching the game when Moz played in Australia in the final. I was a massive fan of Moz growing up. Probably my favourite player. He inspired me to try and...
Like a weird, like too much of a fan. Almost
No,
like a weird
just a poster on the wall, maybe, bit of
Yeah.
a shirt. I used to run around the house tackling my sister
Yeah.
like I was Adrian Morley. And, inspired me as a kid, and now we're mates. Would say, would we? A bit far. Went a bit farther, didn't I?
No.
You wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, that, mate.
Bless him.
Acquaintance. We're going with acquaintance.
Adrian, it's great to have you down, mate. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming in. I want to get. We always like to tap into, your childhood and what you did, sort of growing up as a Salford fan, a Salford boy. You grew up in the sort of shadows of the Willows, didn't you?
I did. And as a kid, it's funny we're at Old Trafford now, but before I played rugby league, football was my love and passion. I was a big Man United fan, still am. Brian Robson was my hero, and I used to play for the club, but my dream was to play for United one day, and then wait until I went to high school. That's when they played rugby league and football, and put my name down for the football team, and then put my name down for the rugby team as a bit of an afterthought, really. But then I had my first game of rugby league, and I thought, this is it for me. It suited an aggressive young man more than football, and if I'm being honest, I was pretty rubbish at football anyway.
I was going to say, so was that realistic football? Could you?
No,
if
do you know what? I was all right. I was a defender. I still played football for school. After once I played rugby league, that was my love. I joined the club and all that, but I still played football for school. I got asked to play for the year above, actually, so I was all right. I got asked to go down for Salford boy trials, but I just thought, if you start playing rep stuff, football, it'll impact on me rugby league. So, I don't want to say I could have made it a football because it could have been miles away, but I was okay. Played a bit in net as well, but defending it's a bit similar to rugby league, the way I defended anyway. But I enjoyed it and still enjoyed playing for the school after I fell in love with rugby league.
And what was the first thing that lit the fire in your belly to play rugby league?
Just the physical contact. It was brilliant. You could, coming from football, you could essentially commit a foul and not get in trouble for it. You could, bash people, knock people on the floor, and it'd be encouraged and rewarded rather than get red carded. So I just loved the physical contact with and without the ball. It was brilliant, and having two older brothers as well, that did help my rugby league career because they were both keen players, and used to go watching them and played for the club. I couldn't get enough of it. It was on national TV as well at that point, and it was when Great Britain were doing particularly well. It was the time when they was that far against the Aussies, in 1990, 92, and them series. So absolutely loved it.
Open the doors then to the Morley household for us as a kid, because obviously you mentioned your brothers. Chris was playing for Saints when you were growing up. Your dad is from St Helens, right?
He is, yeah.
So was he a Saints fan?
He was, but as soon as met my mother in '68, I think, and met on the Isle of Man. That was the place to go back in the.
Is that like the Vegas of the? 60s?
Yeah, that was the place to go back
in
the '60s.
Fernando's.
Yeah, so my dad moved to Salford. But he's the one who loved rugby league. My mother, big Man United fan, so she wanted all the boys to play football. Turned out we was no good at that, but rugby league, that was the sport for us. And I just remember my very first time I'd heard of rugby league was 1988 when Great Britain played the Aussies in the third test. That was the one when we beat them, but it was played in Australia, so the game was on at 6 a.m. My dad got up at Ep.5, the old VHS, recorded the game, and I used to share a room with my two brothers, so 3 of us were in the room, and he come running up into the bedroom at 8 o'clock in the morning. Boys, get up, get yourself down here. And I thought, what's he on about here? And we got down, and he put this game on what he'd already watched, and I just remember the grin on his face, and he explained that we'd not beat the Aussies for more than 10 years, and you know the team was depleted with injuries in that, no one gives a chance, and he watched it, and then, you know, from waking up that morning, I'd not even heard of all these players, but it was when Mike Gregory scored that length of the field try, and Henderson Gill done a bit of a boogie and all that. So then that was the 6-week holidays going into high school, so that really whetted my appetite for rugby league. And then just to see his face, how excited and you know he was for Great Britain to get the win.
Was Terry Flanagan on that at all?
No, he played in '84.
4 years before, the one before.
4 years before, but he was around that era, yeah. But I thought that was interesting. You know, as a young man in your teenage years, you're very impressionable, aren't you? So probably seeing your dad get so excited about an occasion and a sport and a match, probably, made a big impression on you towards like what playing that sport can do and how much joy and happiness it can give people.
It did, and also the Great Britain team and the badge. I mean, you know, that's an iconic try, what Mike Gregory scored. And, you know, I lived 200 metres from the Willows, as you said before, and Salford were my team. I used to go watching Salford every opportunity I could. But Great Britain were also the love of my life. You know, I couldn't wait to find out when, you know, with Great Britain away, home against the Aussies or whoever. And throughout the year, Salford were my team, but then couldn't wait to watch Great Britain in action. And I think it's a bit sad now that there is no Great Britain team, you know, because I think it's iconic in rugby league, and I think it goes hand in hand. And you know, I think the rugby league lost something when they lost the Great Britain badge and the iconic jersey and all that. So yeah, I used to love watching Great Britain, you know, because of that and the fact that they're doing well at the time.
Take us down memory lane then, and those days when you used to walk down to the Willows, those long 200 metres to a game, and you know, because I always think you fall in love with sort of the smells, the sounds, the things as a kid, don't you? You know, like obviously before you're necking the beers, you know, the sort of the pies, the bovril, the smell of the pitch, the players, the things. What were your memories as a young kid watching Salford?
Well, I used to think the Willows was an absolutely huge stadium, you know, because, you know, don't get me wrong, they used to get maybe 5,000 or 6,000 watching, but as a kid, it seemed like there were tens of thousands there, just because you know, that's what you do. You imagine things that not quite reality. But I just remember as a kid cheering on Salford. But then the big thing to do was when the final whistle went, run on the pitch and go and ask the players for the tie-ups. Now the tie-ups are just what you hold your socks up with, but you know, your favourite player, if you got there first, can have your tie-ups missed and they're giving you, but they were pride of place at home, you know, they were your badge of honour, your tie-ups. And I just remember the smell, used to smell of wintergreen, which was, you know, you rub on your legs to keep warm, but just little things like that. It was just what the lads did. And, you know, if Salford got the win and you managed to get your heroes tie-ups, it was a great day at the office.
I was going to say, the Willows, like probably no other ground, was so integral in that community. I think it was in the middle of all the terraced houses, and it was a focal point for many people in that community, wasn't it?
It was very, very sad to see the Willows go, and not only the pitch and the ground, but they had the Willows Variety Centre, which was a great venue. You know, I've had loads of great nights there at the Willows, and used to know the doorman, so they'd let me in, and I've seen Shawaddy Waddy there. I've seen the Drifters, all these classic 60s bands and that. But it was great because, you know, you'd have a late night. You had a late licence at the time, and just used to walk home. But it was great. But
it was a bit of a Staley Vegas, wasn't it?
It was a Staley Vegas, but you know, a few of my mates had their 18th there and a few weddings there and all that. And it's sad it's gone, but it's. Time moves on, but the Willows was massive, and I don't mind admitting this now, but when I was you know, short of a rugby ball, we'd wait till they got a penalty and they'd kick it over the shed, and then as soon as they kicked it, you'd run round, grab the ball, and you'd have a match ball, and then you'd run home.
Write your name on it in big letters.
Sorry, John Wilkinson, if you're watching this. He was the chairman at the time, but things you did as a kid.
Yeah. I'm just thinking then, did you, at Old Trafford, did you run on the pitches, obviously as a mega Salford fan, to get Mark Flanagan's tie-ups at the grand final against St Helens?
You did, actually. You and a few others.
Did you give them to me? Hey, mister, give me
there
your tie-ups.
There you go, Adrian. There, mate.
well, funny you should say, the link there with Man United and Salford, I was still always, even though I love rugby league, I was still always a United fan. And then I knew Great Britain played there, and the first opportunity I got to play for Great Britain against the Aussies. It was at Old Trafford, and I played against the Aussies the week before at Wembley. I come off the bench, and the following week at Old Trafford I started against the Aussies, and we actually beat the Aussies. So the first time I played at Old Trafford for my beloved Great Britain, we beat the Aussies, which is no mean feat. And but I just remembered going into the players' bar after the game, and first person to come up to me was my mum, and give me a big hug, and it was happy days. It was
amazing. So go on then. The obvious question has to be, the boy that grew up on the terraces at the Willows, dreaming of playing for Salford, didn't start at Salford. It all went full circle, and I'm glad you got to put that Salford shirt on at some point. But Leeds. So how does Leeds Rhinos come about then as a kid? Because you were making your debut at you were playing first team at 17.
Yeah.
But take us from the boy on the terraces to the Rhinos.
So we had a pretty good amateur side, but all the best players they got snapped up when they were still at school. You know, there was like my year there was like Sean Long, Kieran Cunningham, Paul Schoolthorpe, and so all the best players get signed at school. So then our team, none of our players got signed professionally. So then when we went to under 17s, under 18s, we were suddenly the dominant team then, because all the best players from elsewhere had signed. So then we won the league and we made the Lancashire Cup final as well, and it was at the Willows. And I'd had a bit of interest at this point from Lee, and Swinton had offered me a professional contract, which I was just delighted with. Just to get the offer of a contract was a big deal back in the day. But I wanted to sign for Salford, but then played this final, played well, and in the same team was we had Ian Watson, Nathan McAvoy, Watto, yeah. Now Salford come in and they signed them two boys, but after this final, the Leeds scout come up to me and said, "We come looking at McAvoy, but we like what we see in you, Adrian. We want to talk to you about signing professional." And at the apart from the Great Wigan side, Leeds were the best team in the land, really. You know, there was Ellery Hanley was playing for him, and Gary Schofield, and then so when these the big boys come in for us, I thought, I don't know what to do here, because I don't know if or when Salford will come in for me. So that's when I agreed to sign for Leeds. A week later, that's when Salford did ring me actually and say, "We want to talk to you about coming to Salford." But I thought it's too late now. But we had a great team there at Eccles. We won the league and the cup. 5 of us signed professionally. 4 went to Salford, and I went to Leeds. But out of the 5 of us, I was probably the biggest Salford fan. Now, I don't want to have many regrets, and I probably got developed better at Leeds than I would have Salford or anywhere really. They were really good club, giving me a chance first team at a very young age. Dougie Lawton was the coach, and he had a policy then of if you're good enough, you're old enough. So I got a chance there at Leeds. But everywhere I went, I always kept my eye on Salford. I always wanted to see him do well. So I was always that young Salford fan really was inside of me. And then when I was at Warrington, I was 36, 2013, and I thought I've got another year in me. I was talking to Warrington about extending for a year, and that's when Salford and Marwan Kukash rang me and said, "We want you to finish your career at Salford, and then there'll be a role for you when you finish playing." And I just thought my career would probably feel a bit incomplete if I didn't actually play for my own town club and represent Salford, and I was delighted to do that. And even though for the squad we had a fantastic squad, I felt we underachieved for the players and the personnel we had, but it made it no less special for me, representing Salford, and it was everything I thought it would be.
Just going back to when you signed at Leeds, Dougie Lawton was quite an iconic character in the game, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Didn't he come round to your house and come and meet your family and try and when he wanted to sign you?
He did. So I played the final on the Sunday, and then Dougie Lawton come to our house on the Saturday. On the Tuesday. But my dad was in awe of Dougie because it's an ex Great Britain captain and an iconic figure of the sport. And then, but when he got there, my dad didn't have a clue what he was doing in terms of negotiating. But Dougie, he said, "I'll give your boy $3,000 a year for 3 years," and I was like, "Wow, $3,000." I said, "Say yeah, Dad, say yeah." Anyway, so we agreed. But then my dad, he stayed for about an hour, Dougie, just chatting. My dad talking to him about the good old days, and then after about an hour, Dougie said, "Where's the toilet, Mr. Morley?" He said, "It's up there on your left, Dougie." And then when he left the room, my dad looked at me and said, "When you get that first contract payment, you owe me £3.50. I said, "Why's that, Dad?" He said, "The cheeky bastard smoked 20 of me fags." So they just sat there smoking with my dad for a good hour. So,
I love that. It's so old school, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if you see him, you see old footage of Dougie. That's all he did. He'd sit in the dugout and just fag after fag. But he was a great coach, great manager. He'd do anything for the players. And as I say, he gave me chance, so very grateful to Dougie for that.
It's weird, isn't it? Because that kind of still happens in the NFL, that sort of stuff. You get the bosses of the franchises going around and tapping up kids or whatever, and ahead of the draft and all that. And obviously in the Premier League, the words tapping up, and you'll know as a United fan, it was kind of, there was a phase where Fergie used to do it and people used to get in trouble for it. I mean, I was speaking to Robbie Fowler the other day, and he said, it's amazing how chances like that happen. He was at a bus stop, and he's a massive Everton fan, wanted to sign for Everton as a kid. Kenny Dalglish thought this kid is going to be something, whatever, and he just basically picked him up at a bus stop and drove him around Liverpool until he convinced him to sign for Liverpool.
Oh, really?
Just
you get in trouble for that these days.
That's what I mean. These days, you'd be locked up, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Right.
But I guess that used to happen all the time, didn't it? In rugby league, it's mad how the world's changed.
And he was he was quite iconic with his team talks as well, wasn't he, Dougie Lawton?
He was, yeah. He was so. He gave me a chance when I was 17. I come off the bench Good Friday against Hull, and then he said, "I want you to start on Easter Monday," and it was at Thrum Hall, away at Halifax. And then we got to the ground and there was no sign of Dougie anywhere, and I was obviously very nervous. I thought I wouldn't mind Dougie being here just to calm the nerves, give us a bit of words of wisdom, etc. And it got to like 15 minutes before kick-off, and I could see some of the first team boys, they were getting a bit edgy as well, where was the coach? And then there was 5 minutes before kick-off, he walked in the changing rooms with a fag in his mouth. He walked in, he says, "You'll beat these today, boys, because they're shit." And then turned around and walked out of the changing room. So that was my introduction to first team. But it was, I don't know if he was doing it seriously or just trying to lighten the mood so everyone could have a. But it was quite bizarre. But I always remember that team talk.
Have you always been massively confident? Because to be playing, first team rugby at a huge club like Leeds at 17 and sort of like water off a duck's back, were there any insecurities? Was there any imposter syndrome?
No, very much so. I was real skinny as a kid, and even I signed a 3-year deal, and I just thought, what am I doing here signing for Leeds? I didn't have much confidence in my ability. And when I got asked to play first team, I'd only played about 6 A-team reserve games before that, so I just thought, I'm at my depth, I'm at my league here. But it was probably about 7 or 8 games playing for the first team. That's when the penny dropped, really. For them 7 or 8 games, I was every game I was real nervous. That I'm going to get found out in a minute. What am I doing here? And then after about 7 or 8 games, I just thought, you know what, I can handle these big lads. I'm not getting shown up. I'm holding my own. And then there was a massive change in. It was my confidence growing, and then after them 7 or 8 games, I just thought, right, I'm ready for this. This is me now. And then the improvement was dramatic from just that. No one said anything. It was just me. The screws, the cogs ticking in my head, thinking you're ready for this. And then it just the improvement was dramatic then. And then I was playing for my country. The following year, it was the rise was quite rapid.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, you had 6 years at Leeds. When you look back at those years, and I mean, really, your career hadn't even really got started by the time you left Leeds, and you'd had some amazing memories and won some incredible trophies. But what do you look back on with the fondest of memories at the time there?
Winning the Challenge Cup in '99. We made the inaugural final in '98.
Jason Robertson scored that try.
Yeah, it was. There was nothing in the final. Wigan and Leeds were the top two teams all year. We'd had a couple of belting battles against Leeds. We made the grand final. It was the first time it had been a grand final scenario in the UK, so no one knew what to expect. But I loved it. You know, we made the grand final. There was I say only, but there was 40,000 people at Old Trafford. But the atmosphere was fantastic.
It must have been amazing for you as a United fan as well.
It was brilliant. I mean, I know they sell it out every year now, but the atmosphere, even that night with only 40,000 people there, was brilliant. It was a miserable night, which it tends to be on grand final night, but it was fantastic. And the only difference was a great try by Jason Robinson. There was a very intense game, but I loved it. Now, even though we got beat, making that final, I think, gave us a confidence then. And then the following year, that's when we went to Wembley. It was the last ever final at Wembley before they demolished it, and we played in a Challenge Cup final. But I'd only played 3 games, and I made the Challenge Cup final squad as a 17, 18-year-old. I flew down from Leeds Bradford Airport with the first team, but I knew I wasn't going to play. But I absolutely loved the experience, staying in these nice hotels and doing the Wembley Walk and all that. And I thought I made it a goal then to hopefully one day play in a Challenge Cup final. And then 4 years later, that's when we went down in '99, and it was brilliant. We was favourites, but then we started the game, we were getting beat 10-0. It was when Richard Branson walked out the London Broncos team. It was quite an iconic photo there of him walking out. But then we snapped out of it, and we got the win. It was a record score. It was 52 something.
Leroy Rivette scored.
He scored 4 tries, and it was brilliant. That was me, without a doubt the highlight of my Leeds career.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of tapping up. Who did we have on the podcast ages ago? And they said Richard Branson flew him in a helicopter and convinced him to sign for
Scully. It might have been Scully.
Oh, Scully, yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't want to sign, and he'd agreed, obviously.
Yeah, he sold him the dream.
He pied Branson, loved it. So we mentioned at the top of the show, Trailblazer. What number were you then in terms of, were you number 1 to go to the NRL? There were British players. But
well, since the season started running concurrent, so it was always a winter sport. Winter
word concurrent.
Cheers, mate. Winter in England, winter in Australia, but of course Southern Hemisphere, their winters are summer and vice versa. So you used to get a lot of English going over for like 2 or 3 months
and then come back.
And a lot of Aussies coming this way 2 or 3 months in the off season. But since the seasons run concurrent in '96, you didn't have any Englishmen over there. Only because, well, I don't say only because, but at the time you did get more money in the UK playing in the Super League. How times are different now. You do get a lot more money playing in the NRL. So there was no English players playing over there, and until I went over in 2001.
And you took a pay cut, didn't you? Because you were 23. So go on. What was in the thinking to go and play in Australia?
Well, looking at the NRL and.
Just wanted to bash some Aussies, didn't you?
Well, yeah, just didn't like Australians. I wanted to bash them, but it was and is even now regarded as the best and the toughest rugby league competition in the world. And I just wanted to test myself and try and prove myself. Really, I was regarded as one of the better players over in Super League, but I thought I want to go down under and obviously. Live a lifestyle as well. I heard some great stuff about Australia and the lifestyle and everything that comes with it, and so I just thought I want to try my luck down there. And you're right, I did get offered more money to stay in the off Leeds and Wigan. Actually, I had 2 offers, more money to stay here, but
which is insane because you were, one of, if not the best in the world at the time.
Yeah, well, it wasn't all about money. Money's great, and don't get me wrong, I did get paid and paid well off the Roosters, but there was a bit more money on the table over here. But really pleased with the decision. Happy I went over and happy how well the stint was.
How did a home bird, a Salford boy, adapt to Oz?
Well, do you know what? The first year it was a bit of a struggle, really. You wouldn't think you'd get homesick for Salford over Sydney, but I was, missed my family and just little home comforts, and I actually broke my arm the first year.
Did you break it on someone's head?
It was on Ruben Wickie's head, which it's not got the softest head, but it was a funny story actually. So I got the ball, and Ruben Wickie was one of the enforcers down under, and tough guy. And I thought, right, he's getting it. So I got the ball and just sprinted at him as hard as I could and threw everything at him with the ball, and he just bobbed down and just dived at me, and he basically nutted my forearm. And my mate with Carlo Napolitano was watching, my best mate since we were 3-year-old. He was watching in the crowd and he was talking, and he said he thought he heard a tree snap, the noise, and he looked round, and then he said I got up and played the ball, and then he got up at Marco, Ruben, and both being tough guys, we pretended nothing was wrong, and then after about 30 seconds I knew I was in trouble, and so I ran off the pitch, and the physio said you got a suspected broken arm. So then they took me to Canberra Infirmary, and as I was walking in the waiting room, Ruben was there with a neck brace on, and he turned around and went, "Hey, man, you all right?" But then I didn't know him before that, but we sat down with him. We had a good half an hour chat and got to know him well. And he's a lovely guy, one of the good guys. So that's how I got to know Ruben Wickie. But breaking the arm,
so that was a setback.
It was, and don't get me wrong. It's even in England, if you're injured, you don't feel part of the team. But I felt particularly isolated over there because I was on my own, and I was on the sidelines for 7 or 8 weeks. So it wasn't great. And then Graham Muddy, who coached me at Leeds, he's another reason I went to the Sydney Roosters and the NRL was because of Graham Muddy. I used to love him as a coach and as a guy, and I wanted to play under Graham. He actually got the sack at the end of that first year when I was there, so then I was thinking, I didn't have a great year. The coach who signed me has been sacked. I don't know where I stand. So then I come back to the UK, and then Ricky Stewart was the new coach. He rang me and said, look, you're in my plans, Adrian. I'd like you to have you back at the Sydney Roosters. And I thought, I don't want to come back and say, I've played in the NRL, I've dipped my toe in. I want to come back and say I've made an impact. So that's when I went back out. And then, thankfully, the second year was it went really well. I got used to living away from home and all that. And that year, that's when we actually went all the way to the grand final and won it.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because the transition, you've seen it with more modern day players in terms of really good players who struggled. Is it a cultural transition that they struggle with?
I think it's style of play as well.
You've been there, done it.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's more outside backs that struggle because I think the style of play is very different. But if there was any player that was suited to the NRL, it was Moz, especially in his aggressive, destructive prime. I think it was tailor-made to you because the way you played, you were just very direct. You were really fit for a front rower, weren't you?
Yeah.
And just aggressive, and you were probably the most feared man in the game at that point, and it was perfect for you, wasn't it?
I loved it, and what I had to get used to as well was the week-to-week intensity. So when I was at Leeds, there was probably Wigan, Bradford were in the Super League then, Wigan, Bradford and St Helens, who when you played against them boys, you didn't know who was going to win, and they were really intense games. Then there was like another tier, you sort of Castlefords, Warringtons and Salfords, and when you played them, it'd be tough for a while, but then you could beat them. And then there was another tier who were poor, like Huddersfield were in the Super League then, and then you could beat them without really getting out of second gear. In the NRL, it was whoever you played, home or away, it was a full-on, as the Aussies say, a fair dinkum match, so you have to get used to the week-to-week intensity. You don't play as many games over there, but the games you do play are 10 out of 10 in terms of the intensity.
What do you make then of the sort of the modern day temptation for players to go over there? Because you can understand the pull of it, and then the battle that Super League and the RFL have got to keep them over here.
Yeah, well, I mentioned the monetary factor when I went over. Now there's a lot more temptation because of the lifestyle of how good the game is, and there's a lot more money in the game in the NRL, not just players' wages, but the way they market it, and every kid plays rugby league in Australia. If you're not good at rugby league, that's when you try other sports. England not got that.
We try football, and then when we're not good at football, that's when we try other sports.
But if a lad can go to Australia, get paid 2 or 3 times is what he's going to get paid in the UK. Sun's out every day. There's a beach at the end of your street. Why wouldn't you go and try your luck in the NRL? So I think Super League, you're right, and the rugby league in general have got a job on their hands trying to keep the young British talent from going over. And I'll be honest, when I speak to young British lads, I say, get yourself over there. It's a fantastic experience.
And development in terms of what, you were already one of the best, but did it improve you?
Yeah, definitely. Just that consistently playing at a higher level, week to week. The amount of times I've played for Great Britain or England against the Aussies, and we've been a match for them for 70, 75 minutes, and they just get us in the last 5 minutes. That's because they play in the NRL, and every game is intense for the full 80 minutes.
What was it like when you came back 2005 to Bradford? It was at the back end of the season, wasn't it? You went straight into a grand final. Was it weird going into that dressing room?
It was, because I still felt affiliated with Leeds, and before I went to the NRL, Leeds, their arch enemy was Bradford Bulls, and I used to despise the Bulls. They were the bad boys, and we had some great ding-dongs with Leeds and Bradford. I remember it broke the Super League attendance a couple of times, once at Headingley, then once at Odsall. And when Brian Noble rang me up, said, I want to sign you for the Bulls, I rang Gary Edrington. I went, Gary, I've had this offer to go to the Bulls, but I want to come back to the Rhinos. I can't see myself playing for them. And then Gary said, we can't give you any money. There's shut the door, really. So I signed for Bradford. But to be fair, Bradford, as a club, they couldn't do enough for me in terms of looking after me and give me an apartment to live in and whatnot. And they was on a bit of a roll themselves. And then we went all the way. I played 6 games from. Ironically, we beat the Leeds Rhinos in the grand final. So it was.
That must have been strange.
It was strange. Yeah, I still had a load of mates there at Leeds, Barry McDermott in particular. But it was strange. But I was there to do a job, and I did my best for the Bradford Bulls, and it was strange. But I'm still pleased I did it, and I'm still thankful for the opportunity, and I wouldn't change anything. But out of all the things I've won, that's probably my least favourite accolade, only because I'd not been with the Bradford boys all year, and I just come in and just jumped on the bandwagon at the end, really. But
did it feel weird lifting the trophy and putting
it did. If you look on all the footage, I'm
you like Ashley Cole or John Terry?
I'm a bit in the back,
yeah, joining in with the lads.
I'm a bit in the background because I didn't feel as though I was.
So you felt a bit embarrassed for that?
A little bit, yeah, because I thought, these boys have been sweating and toiling all year, and I've just come at the end, and then so I'm just on all the photos. I'm just on the end there, just like
photoshopped out.
You soon get over it when you see your bank balance.
Yeah, soon get over it. But
it's a mental feeling to have, isn't it, when you've won the biggest prize and you feel a little bit like I don't really deserve it. Or... It
is, and they did a documentary not long ago, and they come to Eccles, my old amateur club, to do some filming, and it wasn't until I got chatting with the interviewee, and it brought back some memories. But as I say, I wouldn't change it. But it was quite a strange feeling and scenario. As I say, going into the lads at that stage of the season.
Yeah. So obviously that was just a loan deal from Sydney. When did you feel that enough was enough, NRL, and wanted to come back?
Well, we won the grand final in 2002, and then. We made 2 further grand finals, 03 and 04, without getting the win. But just I knew rugby league was a big sport in Sydney, but I didn't realise how big it was until we made that grand final in 02. And everywhere you looked, there was red, white, and blue flags of the Roosters, and interviews every 2 minutes. And then but I loved the build up, and to play in 3 grand finals in 6 years was absolutely incredible experience. 2006, we didn't make the playoffs that year, and I was talking to the club about staying. I was really settled there. The club.
Did you think at that stage that you'd see out your career in Australia?
But it was certainly a possibility. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, she loved it over there, and we've still got a load of friends over there, and it was just a great lifestyle, a great way of life. And as I say, I was talking to the Roosters about signing for another year or two. That's when we fell pregnant with our first child, and that's when I thought it'd be nice to have the family around with us at that special time. So that's when I told my manager I'd like to go back to the Super League and
see if there's any bunts.
Well, see if there's any bunts, but there was more money than I was going to be offered by the Roosters, but also a longer contract, which a bit of security as well. So Wigan and Warrington both offered me a 4-year deal, and I chose Warrington, but it was that was the reason because we was expecting.
Yeah. So 2007, Warrington. And again, not a massive stint there, but some unbelievable memories. And you won 3 Challenge Cups?
Yes, yeah, three Challenge Cups. And but again, the first year was there. It was quite similar to Sydney in the fact that my very first game for Warrington, we played Wigan. It was on Sky, and I thought I'm going to show everyone what they've been missing for the last 6 years. And I flew at the line to Banjo. One of the Wigan forwards,
Eamon
O'Carroll, that's right, and because he's not the biggest, I thought he was going to get smashed in. I flew out the line, mistimed it, and head clash, and I broke my cheekbone. So I missed 7 weeks, and then in my comeback game, I re-broke it. I missed another 6 weeks. So similar to Sydney, I missed a lot through injury, and then Paul Cullen, who signed me, he actually got. The following year, that's when he asked me to captain Warrington. He actually got the sack midway through that year. Then I was thinking, was Warrington the right club, and was it right to come back to the Super League and all that? And all these things were going through my mind. And that's when Tony Smith joined the club, and that's when we actually won the first bit of silverware of note for 30 odd years. That's when we won the first Challenge Cup, and getting that win, that was the catalyst really. Then the shackles were off then, and then we won 3 Challenge Cups, three in 4 years. Won the League Leaders Shield the other year, and made a couple of grand finals as well.
Amazing time. And would this might have been around the time that you would have first played against Moz?
I think I first played against Moz in 2009 for Wigan.
So when he was at Warrington?
When he was at Warrington, yeah.
That's quite a terrifying thought, Adrian Morley running at you,
I absolutely shit myself. Yeah. I think I had the ball and I saw him, and Moz used to squint his eyes a little bit, and you could see him crouched down, revved up. And I thought, I don't want to borrow this. I think I did a quick tip on and give it to somebody else. Yeah, I think it might have been Eamon O'Carroll. So there you go, pal. But yeah, he was always the measuring stick for forwards and middle forwards and aggressive players in the game. And
technically, what was made him stand out?
Technically, that wasn't. Technically, you weren't the best player, were you? I think it was more his intimidation, his aggression, his toughness. And that just relentless ability to whack people for 80 minutes. And at the time, there was no one in the game like it. And I think when you would hear interviews with former players in the NRL, Willie Mason wouldn't run at him. He'd tip the ball on to Mark O'Mealy. I remember him saying in an interview, he saw Moz running, looking at him and thought, I'm not having this. And I think it was that reputation of just being absolutely fearless that gave him the edge over so many people.
Were you aware of the reputation? I know that sounds a silly question because, I guess toughness, fearlessness is sort of tangible. But where does it come from in you? Because it was such a big part of your game and your career.
Well, when I come through the ranks at Leeds Rhinos, I had a teammate, Barry McDermott, who he had a reputation, and I played with Barry. I was in the second row then early in my career, and Barry was a front row, and I can't remember who we played, but then we packed down, and then he just snarled at their full pack, and all the front row turned away and shit it. And I just thought, wow, that's respect. I wouldn't mind having a bit of what Barry's got there. So I knew you can't just say, right, I want everyone to fear me and respect me. You've got to do the hard stuff first to earn that. Anyway, just on my game, I knew I wasn't, look at Paul Sculthorpe, who's similar age to me, but Scully could do everything. He could pass, kick. He was tough as well, but I couldn't do any of that. But I just thought, what are my strengths? What's got me signed, professionally, and what am I doing well in the first team? And it was the physical stuff. So I just thought, right, well, how do I be more physical, more intimidating? It's just train hard. The bigger and fitter and stronger I am, the better I'm going to be as an intimidator, as a big hitter. So I challenge anyone to say I didn't train the hardest. Whatever club I went to, I used to train like a madman.
Was it exhausting living up to that reputation at times?
It was. But once you get to that level, it's funny. I had some good fun trying to get to that level. I tackling people and getting sent off, that kind of thing. But when it was right, it was fantastic. When it went wrong, it wasn't really the end of the world, because people would always have an eye on you, and there'd be a bit of fear there, and you could see them look at you and then run the other way. And so once you get once you get to that level, it's easy, really. Like when Barry snarled and they all turned the other way, it got to that point where I knew for a fact that people respected us as a player. So you don't really have to do that much anymore. You're already put on that pedestal. But going back to I used to train like really, really hard. I loved it. That was something that I knew made me a better player. Therefore, I used to do all the more, and used to.
Did that come from you or coaches as well? Or did you,
both.
You knew you had to.
Bit
to
both. I knew I had to. As I say, I weren't particularly skillful, but I knew what my strengths were. So just to train hard, but I used to love it, and the harder the session was, the more I'd enjoy it. And then it got to the point where I'd be egging on my teammates, come on, and all this. But it was great. But when you said before, was it a bit of a burden? It was tough. I played first team for 20 years, and probably for 4 or 5 years I was just earning my reputation. And then for probably 12 years I was trying to maintain it, but it was hard work every week, thinking, right, I'm going to have to get up for this. And it's quite a mental, it's quite tapping, it's quite sapping on your mental.
Yeah.
I don't know, so you'd have to, wake up in the morning. I used to have to get myself in a bit of the zone, as it were, but then I was really miserable, and I was really to me mates and to me
quite grumpy to be around.
Grumpy, yeah, to my mates. And on game day, my mates and my wife said, "You're a knobhead on game day," but it was just me getting myself in the
you knew you had
in
that
the
routine.
right frame of mind, yeah. And then play the game, but then just before the game, I had to get myself wound up to there's the level. If you go over the level, you're knackered. You get red carded and you do something. I had to have to try and get myself up as close to the level as I could without actually going over it. Well, just being being a miserable, grumpy bastard, all day. And
so
then,
you always go into character.
Yeah, pretty much. But I didn't know at the time I was doing this. But it's not till now I know a bit more about sports psychology and all stuff like that. Because I remember back, and I was a right knobhead anyway to be around. But then, just my opponents used to really despise him and get. I didn't know him personally, but in my head, I hated him. Just to get myself in that zone, and then 18 minutes to try and whack them all over, and then. It'd start again the following week. Then you'd start doing your prep on the Monday. Who we're playing this week, right? And I'd just have it in my head that he's an arsehole.
So you almost create situations.
Yeah. So
wow.
It was bizarre. But then, as I say, the more I learnt about what was really going on, the more I could control it a lot better. It was a lot better to be around. And then, so instead of building up to the game for 4 or 5 hours before it, I just wait till I got to the ground. That's when I'd switch on again. But for the more experience you get, the better you are at handling your emotions and all that kind of thing. So
it sounds like Frank the Tank, doesn't it? Just like getting someone wound up for the from old school.
Yeah,
pretty
much.
So you, how would you come down from that? Because you'd have to. You couldn't stay at that level 7 days a week. You'd have to come down, be a good husband, to be the family man, and then go back up there again on match day.
Well, as I say, first half of my career, I weren't particularly nice to be around on game day. Anyway, throughout the week I was fine, but then you learn how to deal with it a lot better. And then I like to think when he had kids, that's when it changed as well. Because that they have a calming influence on your life. I was still aggressive, but not overly aggressive as I was. But I think I learned to balance it a lot better. And I think when I got asked to captain the team off Paul Cullen, there was a notable change in my style of play as well. Instead of flying out the line, doing these rash decisions, I thought I want to try and lead by example rather than being sent off and sin-binned and all that. So there was, as I say, there was a change, and still aggressive, but not overly aggressive as I was earlier on.
Now, your reputation for being an enforcer and being intimidating, that was exacerbated a bit when you went to Australia because you had a little black book, didn't you?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I did have a black book, so like rugby league in Australia is the main sport, so they do get a lot of press, publicity and all that kind of thing. And so if you get the paper, there's like 3 or 4 pages of rugby league, full pages, and then when they've had enough rugby league, that's when other sports get a look in. But then there's always something, and to be fair, a lot of the reporters used to write daft stories just because to get their names and different people in the press. Now we played Penrith, and one of their players, Joe Clinton, who was a young front rower, and we was dominant team at the time. We just won the grand final the year before, and we was battering everyone that year. And then he just did an article just saying we're not scared of the Roosters. We'll fight fire with fire. We'll match them in the forwards, and it weren't particularly offensive. But as I watched in the changing rooms, Ricky Stewart said, "Have you seen what?" And I said, "Don't worry, I've seen it, Sticky. And don't worry, it's in the black book." And then, but that was it for me. That game, then I thought he's getting it this game, and then I battered him all over the park, and I come off feeling quite chuffed with myself. And then the following week, I think we played away at Parramatta, and as soon as I walked in the changing room, he flew over. He was that far from my face and said, "Right then, who's in the black book this week, Moz?" And I went, "All right, okay." I looked down at the programme and I said, "Yep," picked a forward at random, and he's in the book this week. And then, sure enough, that game he got battered all over the park as well. Then, but then that was it. Then every week it was a running joke. I had to have someone in the black book.
But did the names actually go in a black book, or was it just
no? It was just a metaphorical black book. But it got to the point where my teammates were coming up to me saying, "Can you put so and so in your black book? Because he's a right idiot."
How many names went in the black book over this 20-year career?
Yeah, there was quite a few, but then. I knew he was onto something though, because there was about 5-6 teams in Sydney. So when you went in the town centre, there's always your opponents from other teams out. And then I got chatting to this guy one night, and then after about 20 minutes, he just said, "You're not going to put me in your black book, Moz?" So I just thought words got round, and then I just thought that's.
How many people went in the black book off the pitch? That's a good question.
Oh yeah, good question. That there was a
Are
few.
people still in the black book in 2023?
Can't say, but yeah, but it was great for me. Just for my personal game, it just gave me a goal and someone to focus on and go for and just try and whack really.
And you usually pick the biggest, baddest player on their team, didn't you? Because as an enforcer, an intimidating figure, a leader in the middle of the park, for the alpha male in your team to get one over on the alpha male in the opposite team is quite a big thing for your teammates, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 100% right there, and we had a bit of fun with the black book, but it was as I say, it was great only because it gave me a goal.
Yeah. So I mean, you've said it yourself in terms of there was a slight one dimension to your game then. So was there at all a bit of paranoia that if you lost your edge, which you needed to make you the player that you were, that you wouldn't be in your later years? You said just about 5 minutes ago that you sort of knew that you couldn't take that into your 30s, and you wanted to go down the leadership route a bit more.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. However, having played for so long, I did work on my other game, my passing game and stuff like that. So, and being a captain, I think that helped me. It did calm me down, my aggression down, but I think it rounded me as a player, really. Having the responsibility of being a captain, it made me a bit more aware of what's going on. So I think I did improve as a player, even though my aggression went down. I think my
skill went this way.
Yeah. So it was like
leadership.
Yeah. So it was a worry, but it was good fun. Doing it all them years.
Because you did need that side to your game, but obviously it had to be controlled, and there were days when it wasn't. So what was in your mind when those days where you did get 12-second red cards and things? When it went over the edge so quick.
Well, I was.
Do you get a 12-second red card?
Did I? I did. Yeah, I can't remember.
It's not been mentioned much, is it?
No. There was. I mean, I'm very grateful that the coaches who I did play under were very supportive, and when it did go wrong, I remember Graham Murray. He said, "You can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs," which and Ricky Stewart was the same. He didn't want to change my aggressive style. He thought out of all the times it went right, the club and the team got a lot more from the stuff that went right rather than the stuff that went wrong. So they didn't want to change the way I played. So if there'd have been a coach saying, right, if you get banned again, you get fined, or you're not playing for me again, it could have been a bit different. But they were all very supportive, and they wanted to encourage the way I played, really.
Robbie Cairns. I know you talked about this a lot, but was he in the Black Book?
No, he wasn't. He was actually, well, to be fair, playing for Great Britain, you've got 13 players in the Black Book. You just want to do your best for your country, and every tackle you want to smash the Aussies. It was,
and they knew you really well.
They did, yeah. And that year, I'd come off probably my finest year as a player. I was on fire. You
were the baddest man on the planet.
I was the baddest forward on the planet without a doubt. And my Black Book was working overtime that year. I was battering all these Aussies left, right, and centre. And I've never felt like it before or since. But that year, I was the dude. I was the man. And I got back to England. I knew this Test series was coming up, and I just thought, I'm going to show my British teammates how to handle these Aussies. I've done it all year, and we kicked off, and it was. It went wrong. It was
travesty of justice.
It was a travesty of justice. And
what was the plan when that ball was in the air?
Well, whoever got it, I mean, could have been Robbie Cairns, could have been anyone. I just wanted to put the biggest shot on I've ever put on in my life. And if you look on the video, I'm about 10 metres in front of everyone else. Just wanted to give it my best. And
let's rewind a little bit then. I mean, before the ball's being kicked and you're in that dressing room, just take us back into like the JJB and what was going on in your head. And
tell a full story.
Well, I get fired up for games, as you know, anyway. But that game I was particularly fired up, and then the game got delayed for traffic getting to the ground. So 20 minutes later, that's when
you're like a caged animal, aren't you?
Yeah, that's when the kick-off come round, and I thought, right, this is it now. And we kicked off, and it was a travesty of justice. So we kicked off, and I flew down, and Robbie Cairns he dived at me. So I thought, what's he doing here? But he attempted a flying headbutt at me. So then I slipped the headbutt, and he caught me on my forearm, and he nutted me. So he assaulted me, took a dive, and got me sent off. So there's no justice there, is there? So, but
that's one version of events.
That's my version. I'll stick in with that one. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. Just the magnitude of the game and what it meant. And
did you know as soon as you'd made that contact?
I knew there was contact, but I don't think Steve Ganson seen the actual incident. It all happened too quick. And I think he got a message saying it was a bad one and he's got to go. So, but if it had just put on report, I thought that would have been a fairer outcome. But having a look at it now, it was a bad challenge, and you can't argue with the send off. But I just thought, it was first minute of the game. I thought he could have put on report. But if it had been an Aussie, do you think Ganson would have sent the Aussie off? I don't think he would have. But,
what was that like then, walking down the tunnel into the dressing rooms at Wigan?
I couldn't believe it. Having been so excited and fired up for the game, I thought we had a great chance, and we did have a great chance of beating him. We was beating him for 75 minutes until they pipped us at the end. But I've just felt that's it.
Is that the first overriding feeling that you just let your teammates?
Yeah. I remember getting to the changing rooms, and I don't mind admitting I was crying my eyes out. I was in tears. I was a mess, but I just thought, if we could hang on for the win, I wouldn't have felt half as bad. I remember a few years before Sean Edwards got sent off for Great Britain, a bit later on in the game, not the first minute, but they held on for the win, Great Britain. I thought if they can do that, I wouldn't have felt I'm half as bad. But they got us at the end, and it was.
It was. I was at that game with my dad, watching as a kid, and it's been mentioned before. This I can't remember who said it, but if you ever watch back the footage of the incident and watch the Australian players' reaction, nobody does anything. It's a clear high shot, but not a single Australian runs in, starts pushing, starts fighting. Now, if it had been any other player, I reckon it would have been on. It would have been like a Royal Rumble. But because it was Moz, there was this level of respect and fear that none of them fancied taking you on. Watch it back. I don't think you've watched it for the first time, Will. Anyway, but it's quite something special that no one does anything, and I've never seen that in a rugby league pitch.
It was funny. So after that, they got sent off, and they had to have an international tribunal. So there was two English guys and an Australian. And we got there, and the Australian said if Morley would have done that in Australia, would have got 6 or 7 weeks. And the two English lads said, but we're not in Australia now, are we? So they said he's already served a game because he went off in the first minute. But what we're going to do, we're going to hit him hard in the pocket. So we're going to give him a record fine, but he can get to play in the second and third test. And you should see the Aussie was absolutely gutted. So I did get a chance to play in the second and third test. And again, for both of them tests, we were winning with 5 minutes to go, and again they find a way to win these Aussies.
You've always maintained, though, despite all the things we've been talking about, that you're not a dirty player. You were never a dirty player.
No, I don't think so. I mean, my opponents would probably argue, but a lot of my send-offs and suspensions, etc., were high shots, and if you go and elbow or punch someone, you've not got much of a defence. You've done an act of thuggery and then you're off. But I think if you're going for the tackle and you mistimed it, you've got a lot more. You got a lot more credence and a lot more doubt that you did actually mean to attack or just got it wrong. So 95% of my misdemeanors are tackles that went wrong. So I didn't feel myself as a dirty player.
What about when you did the old knee to the head?
Well, that was dirty. I said 95% of my misdemeanors, but that was my worst.
It was only a soft one though.
It was a soft one. He took a dive, didn't he? But no, it was. I think it was a.
Frustration.
Bit of frustration. We had a really, really poor year. I'd agreed to sign back at Warrington, and a bit of frustration. But Ricky Stewart, I blame Ricky really. Before the game, he actually said this Corey Hughes is a grub. That's what the Aussies use for a bit of a shit house. Anyway, they said he's a grub. If he starts any nonsense, I want the first person there just to bang, stick one on his chin. So that was it for me. I got the green light just to lamp this lad. And, but I didn't find out after the game it was Ricky Stewart's mate. So he was like winding us up just so someone could smack him, so then he could have a laugh at him. Anyway, Ricky had played with him at Canterbury a few years before anyway. So again, he was being a knob, shoved one of our players. So I just flew in and I thought, I've got a free shot. I flew in to clock him, and he went down to play the ball, and then I ran in like that. I thought, what do we do? And then I just stuck the knee on him, and then but then everyone just went, what are you doing? The referee, all their players just said, what are you doing? And then the ref just said sent off, and that was me. My final of a game for the Roosters, so it ended in disgrace.
I love that everyone stopped going,
yeah, so everyone said, what are you doing?
What was that?
So that was my last game.
You were Britain's most capped player in terms of England and Great Britain, 53 international appearances, and an iconic figure in those jerseys. What was so different about putting on those shirts for you? How much more special was it than playing for Leeds and for Warrington and for the Roosters?
Well, it was, playing for your country, I think it's something very, very special in any sport. It's, you being asked to represent, one of the 17 best players in the country. And I told you about my first experience of rugby league. That's when my dad was so excited watching Great Britain. So playing for Great Britain or England later on, it was the be all and end all for me. It was the highlight of my career without a doubt. So every opportunity I got a chance to do it, I used to, take it with both hands and try and put my best foot forward. So it was great. When you line up, sing the national anthem with your brothers in arms. It's quite hard to describe, but they say it's a cliche, but the hairs on your neck stand up. It does, and I never got tired of that feeling, and I was very fortunate to do it for a long time, and many times as well. It was my first tour and chance I got to play for Great Britain was '96, and my final game was 2012. So it was 16 and a half years between my first and last game, but it still wasn't enough. I would have loved to have done it more times.
What was retirement like for you? Was it easy?
It was. I was ready for it. I feel bad for players who retire through no fault of their own. Through injury or they just don't get asked to sign again by the club. It's when you don't finish on your terms. I think it's quite sad at times, especially when you've not got to the level you want, or you've not fulfilled all your goals and your dreams. But for me, I'd done everything I wanted to do. I was 38, and it was really nice, just from a personal point of view. The coach, Ian Watson, he actually asked me to play on in the following year, which I thought it was.
Was that 2016? It would have been.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Would have been teammates.
What would you have been there? How old were you?
I was 38 when I finished, so I would have been turning 39 the following year. But I was 95% sure I was going to retire, and then I had a chat. But then we played Bradford in the middle eights, and I got a whack on my neck, and all my arm went numb and all my neck went numb, and that was a sign for me. I just thought, that I'm going to call it a day. But the fact that he asked me to play on, I thought it's great. It's not got to the point where I'm deadwood. They've only asked me to play on because of my reputation or name, that I'm actually doing a job, and they want me to play on next year. So it was nice to finish like that. But as I say, did everything I wanted to play. Played for more than 20 years, and to retire, my body was ready to retire. And
but what about your mind? And did you struggle then? Because you've explained, getting yourself up to that sort of level physically and emotionally every week for 20 years in a season. And then suddenly it's taken away from you. Where did you get those kicks? 'Cause I speak to a lot of guys who've hung up the boots, and I think, Mark, you said as well, I don't really miss it at all. You didn't really struggle mentally with not playing, did you?
No, I think I'd had a full season when I decided I was going to retire, that I enjoyed it, and I revelled in every last training session, last trip to Castleford or Warrington or wherever, and I just enjoyed and savoured that last year. But no, I think for me, similar to Moz in a way, that it got hard work getting myself up for every training session and every game. I think if you're an effort-driven player, which we both were, much better than me, I'd say, it does take its toll on you. And I did 12 or 13 years. Moz did 18, 19. So it does take its toll on you. And I think for me, it was just the time.
I'm not saying it's like coming out of jail, but was it an easy transition to normal life and to not having that sort of impact and contact and training every day?
It was easy in terms of it was a relief, like what Flanagan was saying, that you don't have to get up for games or anything like that. So the pressure was off in that regards. But it was the day-to-day stuff I missed. Being with the lads every day, training with the lads every day, having the camaraderie every day. Having done that for 20 years and then suddenly it's not there. I was fortunate that I did stay involved in the sport at Salford and at Leeds, different roles, coaching and on the commercial side. So I was in and around the lads, but it still wasn't the same, that you're still not a player, you're still not training with them. I still kept up my training, but it's a lot different training on your own than it is training with your mates and your teammates and the conditioning and whatnot.
Do you think you'd have a job for life at Salford after you finished?
Well, that was the...
that was a dream.
That was the dream. Marwan did sold us the dream. He said,
He sold a few dreams to people, didn't he?
Yeah. He said, come and finish your career and there'll be a role here for you. And, Salford lad, you've had the career we see you as the ambassador kind of thing. But, looking back, Salford's not the type of club that has got the finances or, to carry someone in that role. And fair play, I've no problems with the club or even Marwan. It just disappointing the way it panned out.
Did the idea of coaching never turn you on?
Well, I did try it when I had a year at Salford. Then I went to Leeds, but it didn't really float my boat. I was the academy coach for a year, and I knew I wouldn't get the same enjoyment from coaching as I would playing. But it's not that. As I say, I knew it would, but it just didn't even go nowhere near. And there was some parts about the job I liked, but majority was weren't great. And as I say, even when you're not playing, coaching, there's still a big commitment on your time, like your weekends and your Easter and summer holidays. And I got 3 young kids, and I just thought I'm still, even though I'm not playing, I'm not getting the same enjoyment out of my job, and I still can't go away and do what I want. I've not got the flexibility, so that's the reason I come out the sport. I still love the sport dearly, but I'm glad I'm not involved day to day. I'm not glad I'm not at a club.
Because you are still a baby, really. What are you, 45?
45, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of living to do now. I mean, do you feel a freedom after having played and having committed yourself to that game for so long, or are you a thirst to stay involved?
No. I love the sport. Still watch as many games as I can. I've got 2 boys. They love it. I like taking them, but I'm glad I'm not involved day to day. But it's not to say I might not get involved one day. But I do bits of media stuff. But I'm quite happy having a break. And if that break lasts forever, so be it. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Because I think you've kind of answered this, but I'm amazed the amount of sportsmen and women in different sports that I speak to when they've finished and they actually have time to reflect and look back on what they've done. And I think you kind of said you surpassed all your dreams, right, and your expectations. Did you feel like it was as complete as it could have been, the Adrian Morley story?
Yeah, pretty much. As a young lad playing for Eccles, I wouldn't have imagined I would have had the career I've had. Even though I was pretty good as an amateur, but I never really made any of the rep sides, Lancashire or anything like that. So I think it was a bit of a late bloomer, and some players are like that. Jamie Peacock's another one. He didn't do a great deal till he was 19, 20. So I think I was that, but not as late as JP. But just to play first team was a big dream. But then you sort of get regular first team. What's next? England, and then Great Britain, and then you just keep trying to make goals for yourself. And thankfully I kept reaching them goals.
I was saying it's a great example of perseverance and having that self-belief, because there's a lot of kids that probably might not reach the rep sides of Lancashire, whatever sport it is, whatever region you live in, at 15, 16, 17, and then you kind of give up. But if you've got that perseverance and that mentality to kind of work hard, your life and your career can take you anywhere. And I think Moz and JP are 2 of the modern day greats of our game. So it's quite funny to think that at that age they weren't really wanted, and then they become 2 of the best players we've ever produced.
Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, rugby league is a lot on now. You develop physically. Like there was lads when I was 13, 14, they were getting signed professionally off Wigan and Warrington, and they were massive. They were monsters. But then, got to 16, 17, they didn't grow then, and then in the programme they never did anything. And then there was lads who were really average when we were kids. Malk Alker, he couldn't even get in the Wigan St Jude's side. Well, then he got to 16, he grew a bit, myself and JP, and then so players develop at different ages and different levels, and it's heartbreaking when kids, get lost to the sport like this. When they're on the scholarship system in clubs, get to 16, if they don't get offered a pro contracts, but they're heartbroken and they could get lost to the sport. Whereas if they stick with it, it's not to say you couldn't be a late developer, and then 17, 18, you've got another Jamie Peacock on your hands.
Or Adrian Morley.
Have we got another Adrian Morley in Leo Morley, under 16s at Salford? Are you a good watcher of the game?
Yeah, I'm a good watcher. I'm keep me opinions to myself.
Why is that?
Well, no. I mean, I've not got strong opinions, but I'm not one of these parents who who are overly encourage into the kids, or overly critical of the referee. Just like to watch the game, but he's doing okay. I
don't think he needs any more pressure with Adrian Morley.
Well, I feel sorry for him in that regard. Everywhere he's had it since he was a kid. Are you going to be better than your dad and all that kind of thing? But I think it's something he's learned to live with, and it's just part of life now. But I've got another son as well, Jonah. He's 7. He's just started playing, and he loves it.
Is he at Salford as well?
No, not yet. But he's at Salford Roosters. He's at the Eccles, changed the name from Eccles Amateurs to Salford Roosters, but he's there as well. So I've got another one on the conveyor belt, but he's only played about 5 or 6 games, but he's pretty good.
He's mustard, isn't he?
Hey,
He's mustard.
He's good because he's got an older brother who's been knocking holes out of him since he was a kid.
Yeah.
But he's obsessed with it. He wakes up in the morning, first thing he does is puts a Super League game on. Look at this, Dad, Castleford are playing Huddersfield. And
I love that.
Yeah, but he
How proud does that make you that they've followed in your footsteps without any kind of force to do it so?
Oh, it's great. I mean, I know what the game, forget about playing pro, but what the game can teach you personally, and also the friendship you bond for life then with your mates. Like, I'm still best mates. I don't say I had any of my schoolmates, but the lads I played with when I was 13 at Eccles, I'm still best mates with them lads because rugby league, you do forge a strong bond and friendship, and so I'm just delighted they're playing. If they can make a quid out of the game, brilliant. But I'm just happy they're playing, rugby league rather than other sports.
I reckon if they asked Jonah if he's going to be better than his dad, he'd say, yeah, too right.
he could very well be. Easy. He's pretty good.
Yeah. Has he got a strong right arm in him, Leo?
No, it takes after his mother, really.
So he hasn't got that same edge to
he's not got
has he?
not got the aggression. No. He's but he is a good player. But not many people did have the
aggression.
The aggression.
It wasn't just the right arm; it was the left arm as well, wasn't it?
And the head.
And the knee.
Robbie Kearns was a left elbow.
Just throw your
Any
body
part
out.
of the body.
Yeah. What about England then? What do you make of this England team? Because we should say that England's men and women hosting France 29th of April, that mid-season international. Who excites you in the England team?
I'm a big fan of the two Saints boys, Wellesby and
Dodd.
the loose forward.
Morgan.
Morgan, yeah, I've lost the.
We've had Morgan on, haven't we? Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that they're me two boys at the minute. I just think they're a lot like we spoke about, just the effort and just like chase everything, and that's what you want and that's what you need for club and country. But I was just really, I was very excited watching the England team last year in the World Cup, but also disappointing that we lost. We failed at we weren't the final hurdle. It was the one before the final hurdle. But I think if we would have made the final, we would have give the Aussies a hell of a game at Old Trafford. I think the boys had their eye on the final rather than what was in front of them. And I don't think Australia were the best team in the World Cup. I don't think they were outstanding. I just thought if we'd have got there with 70,000 people there at Old Trafford, I thought all the stars are aligned here. We're going to.
How hard is it to get over something like that? Do you think? And how much has Sean got his work cut out trying to psychologically get them back?
Well, up until that semi, they were on fire, weren't they? They were fantastic, and even in that semi, having done everything wrong, they still put themselves in a position to possibly snatch it. In right at the end in Golden Point, but it was disappointing. But I think he blooded a lot of young lads, and the lads who played were better for the experience, and it was certainly the one that got away. But I just think under Sean Wayne, I think he's the best man for the job, and I think the England team is looking as good as it has for a few years.
Can he lead them to a World Cup, Sean?
Yeah, definitely.
'Cause you know what he's like as a person, and he's been on this pod many times, but that would hurt him probably more than the players, right? He would feel like he's failed, and he said it himself, like he's let people down and himself.
No, I know he wears his heart on his sleeve. I actually, I met him the day after. Actually, they were staying in the Marriott, and I went and had a pint with him, and I know he took it hard, took it personally, but that's what you want from a coach. The players, they do so much, but the coach, that they do so much as well. So the fact that he's hurting means he cares about the country, and he cares about his position, which is only a good thing. I think
it's right for him to stay on, right? Because a lot of his story has been about redemption and putting things right, and you'd think that he's already sort of plotting a way to putting this story, making it have the Hollywood ending that he thought it should have.
I think so. I got asked who would I have as when he was negotiating his new contract. I said. I think Sean Wayne. I don't think there's any other better man for the job. I'm delighted that they, give him another contract, and I think he's delighted. I know what it means to him. Yeah.
Let's finish off then, shall we? A couple of quick fires for both of you, Mark. You can join in on this one.
Ooh, that's nice.
Toughest opponent, Moz, over the years was who?
This guy here.
Come on.
Stop it. True.
No, the NRL had a lot of tough opponents. Gordon Tallis was he was an intimidator. He was one of my heroes growing up, and you know, a lot of his game I tried to emulate. Big God, he was up there, and I mentioned before Ruben Wiki. He's got a hard head, Ruben Wiki, but every player in the NRL, every team had a tough guy, and there were tough guys who were just tough about being aggressive. Shane Webke was one at Brisbane, and they had another lad, Pedro Sivanasiva. There wasn't much. They weren't dirty players, but they were just so tough. And I'm trying to think now where my ultimate opponent would be. Probably.
What about over here?
He's already said me.
Yeah, no, I think playing against Sam Burgess before he went to the NRL, I knew he was going to be a special talent. For someone so young to be so dominant when he was at Bradford, and I got a chance to play with him at England, and I think he was only 18, and he hammered Fufu Moima. I just thought this lad's going to be something special. So even though me and Sam didn't have many ding-dongs together, I just thought he was probably the best player I've played with for England. And you know, he went on to have a fantastic career himself.
Mark, we'll keep you out of the quickfire just because we'll probably edit you out anyway. Just keep it about Mosbone and remind you here every week. We'll maybe do yours next week. That's all right, isn't it? Career highlight.
If you'd have asked me 6 months ago, I would have said representing my country. You know, I mentioned before, it was the pinnacle of my career. It was something very, very special. I'd never get tired of it. But about 6 months ago, I got inducted into the Rugby League Hall of Fame, and that trumped everything I've done to be recognised by your sport you love as one of the Hall of Famers. It was magic night for me and my family. We went down to Wigan. It was very emotional. It was great.
Best teammate?
Oh, this man again. But I think Jamie Peacock. We're similar
You've got
age.
a special friendship with JP.
Yeah, we're similar age, me and JP, and even though I come through a couple of years before JP, as soon as he made the national squad in 2000 for the World Cup, we just hit it off. Same position, same mindset, same lots of things, and then I got to play with JP internationally for 11 years after that, and still good mates now. And so I'd say
so JP over Barry Mack, what draw?
different type of teammates, but the you know, every club you go to, you know, it's like you get your characters, and you know, I'm still really good mates with lads who I played with at every club, but I think number one would probably be JP. Yeah.
Favourite coach? Graham, you talked about before. Is he the one?
Yeah, Graham Murray. Loved the way he coached. I mean, he wasn't. He was a very, very competent coach, but he wasn't a coach who did anything out of the ordinary. But the way he brought the team together, and just his man management, and I think that's half the battle. If you're a good guy and players know that and they want to play for you, I think that's you've cracked it there. And everyone loved Muzzer, and everyone wanted to play for him. So and the fact he took me to Australia, where you know I had 6 of the best years of my life, I'd say Muzzer.
Biggest regret? And I know you said earlier maybe joining Bradford. Is that still it? Or
No.
What happened with Bradford?
No, that's not a regret. Quite the opposite. I would never change what happened. It was, you know, having got the opportunity to play in a grand final, and you mentioned before the only Englishman to win down under an ear. I wouldn't change that. Biggest regret. It's a really good question. I've not thought of it. You know, I'd like to try and live my life without having regrets.
The long hair? With the long hair, a regret?
No.
The long flowing locks you had for a few years, didn't you?
I did have long flowing locks.
Do you? I mean, we talked about it, but do you regret the Cairns day situation or not?
Oh yeah, definitely. If I could change that moment, that incident, certainly would have. Yeah, I'd probably say that. Really, it was you know, pretty heartbreaking at the time, and still, you know, who'd have known if I'd have stayed on? Could we have beat the Aussies? I don't know.
And finally, rugby league wish. Your wish for the sport, your wish for the game would be what?
Great question. I just hope, you know, with this new deal with the with the media mob. I just hope and pray rugby league starts getting the recognition it deserves, and we're seeing a lot more money streams coming into the sport. In my opinion, it's the best product we've got, the best sport in the world. But when you watch it on Sky, then you watch other sports, I'm thinking, am I missing something here? Why do people not love this sport? So I'm hoping this, with the new deal we've got with the guys, that they get it in the spotlight, we get it where it needs to be, and we get all these new sponsors in, a lot more money in, and then we can make it. We know it's the best sport in the world, but we can make it as big and successful as we want it to be.
And that's a good place to finish, Mark, because remember we've had Eddie Hearn on, and he said we shouldn't take everything Eddie Hearn says as sort of gospel and something we should focus on, but that he could name two rugby league players at the time when we had one a couple of years ago.
Jamie Peacock was the one that we mentioned,
yeah.
And then.
But this is the idea, isn't it? We need Adrian Morley's and that deal, and
and the way the game's going with the big crowds that have started the season, the pre-match entertainment, the great matches we've had on, Saints winning the World Cup Challenge, it's definitely going in the right direction, and just needs that exposure and just more of the same from all the clubs in the game, and the players have been delivering for a long time, so that needs to continue, and it's great to have the big man here. I think, like I said, probably one of the best players the country's produced. Great stories. He's great on the after dinner circuit as well. I've heard him many.
You were behind that, weren't you? The enforcers.
Yeah, but he does.
You enforced the enforcers.
I was, yeah. But he's great on the after dinner circuit as well to tell some great yarns, and he's a good man. And
who do people contact, Mark, if they want to hire Adrian Morley?
Me, I'm his agent.
Do they?
Slide into my DMs.
Can we put the phone number here, please?
Put Mark's number at the bottom. That could be dangerous.
Nice little buns.
Moz, Ledge, thank you so much for coming down. It's been great to spend the last hour with you. So many great stories, and don't forget to give us a little follow at Out of Your RL. Download, subscribe, review. 5 stars only. We're still at 4.8 mark. I don't know if we'll slide even further over the next few weeks, but this episode should take us back up there into the 5s. Moz, thank you so much. See you next time, everyone.